Hey, welcome back to Happy Little No Trees. I am your ever-present host, Greg, and today I want to say, is this the best, my newest best, attempt at a day for night sub-look stack? So we're going to break down this look. We're going to piece it apart because you can see if I turn it off, this is what the image looked like. This is what it looks like as a day for night look on this image. And it's simple 3 nodes. I believe there's one tool that I have made for myself, but that's not available yet. We can talk about that. But if at any moment you like what you're seeing, please leave a comment. I will reply to every comment that I hear. Now, that being said, is this the best version of a day for night stack that I've made in a long time? Now, the big thing with day for night is you got to watch how your reds read. You want them to be you want to be able to look and be like, that hat feels reddish, but it isn't. And reds kind of have this achromaticity to them. You want usually like a little bit of blueness in what you're seeing because your eyes naturally at nighttime see more blue than red or green. And so when we fake a day for night look, we're bleeding things back to this kind of bluish cyan color. And it isn't a monochromatic look. Like if we look at how things are set up in the microscope, there is a little bit of a bend to it. And there's things we can do. When you look at her hat in specific, you can see like the collar feels like it's brown. Like when you look at this image, that collar and the hat should still feel brown even though everything is bluish. So out of the box, we're taking black magic footage and we're putting it into OpenDRT. That's our output transform. So that is our base look, you could say, for this shot. And now, if this was in the middle of working on a real project and we were doing a day for night look, which I'm doing right now on the side, I can't show you the footage, which is why we're here, but I can show you the work and how we can take this same look that we have going here and build a sub look that's day for night. And so I'm going to decompose this compound node, show you what we have going on. We're going to just delete these excess nodes here that I'm not using. What we have here is photo perceptual exposure. It's a tool from Thatcher Freeman. Really fun tool. And we have it set up with some settings. We can turn that off. It's really just what it's doing is, if we turn these off here, let's go that way. What it's doing is making an adjustment. It's a look, you could use it as your primary look balance, like for shot level balancing. It has a lot of fun sliders that kind of affect like your exposure level and things like that. Now, for day for night here, we're bringing our exposure down. We want to dim down the image a little bit, but we also want a little softness in the shadows. There is, to a degree, a loss of contrast when you do day for night. We could keep that contrast. Part of the reason it's getting softened in this image is if you make it too harsh, then those highlights in the water get a little wonky. But I like to soften the contrast, bring things in together. We've manually lowered our gamma and then kicked up our gain. So we've kind of lowered the contrast and then kind of rebuilt it with these tools to just get it feeling like you could imagine it being nighttime. Even though when you look at this, you go, well, it still feels kind of bright. It doesn't feel like dark. All you did is make things go from being bright to dark. You kind of left things the same. The next tool is, I call this the Cube Smash. It's a tetra-interpolated tool that right now set up like this is doing this. You can see all the settings here and we can do global blend and you can see how it's working, that magic, as we slide it back and forth. and things like that. And what it's doing is it's changing. So these first 6 controls. So this is a tool. I haven't decided if I want to make it available for free, if I want to make it available as being part of the Happy Little Noter Club, or I just want to get rid of it. But it's done some really cool things for working on shaping the image. So when you slide these tools, like we're going to see as they work individually, it's grabbing the red corner of your cube and pulling it back towards the center, which you can see if we're watching. Watch the scopes down on the bottom right, especially the cube and the side plot and the vector scope. Those are going to have the biggest impact in how things change. And we can bring in the green corner like so. Bring in the blue corner a little. We're kind of desaturating the image while doing this, but we can push that blue set. We can come back here and kind of just push some of that back up, push some of that cyan back in, and we're gonna just then come down to the drift, and we're gonna pull our reds out. We're gonna just drift this image a little. And you can see we're starting to add color back into it. And we're going to steer that around like so. So I'm just working this on the fly. You saw where we started before, and I reset all the settings. So I'm rebuilding this from scratch. And we just dial in where we want that saturation to live. We did push our sat pivot around. Get that feeling. See how that's tweaking the image right there, and things like that. So you can, these will feel like they're not doing anything. The big, or be how that cyan corner is pulling. So
babysit your dog.
What's going on with my dog?
She's chasing the cat. I need my water cup. And this one says she's going to sleep in the car.
I'm gonna sleep in the car to Costco.
Which way? Which way?
There you go, Callie. Good girl. Okay, out. You got the dog in, we can go out. Watch your fingers, Les. That is not, Callie, get back in. Back in.
Hi, dog. Anyways, family interruptions happen sometimes in the studio. But since we've already shifted our image, you can see if we turn drift intensity off, we're very achromatic, but we've drifted that, and now we have some colors going on and that are different than how our things are saturated. And because we've set up more so on the blue side of the corner, as we bend this cyan around, that's how we're getting and picking our bluish hue that we want. We don't want this kind of blue. We want like a almost, cyan feels nighttime-ish. And like if we look at our vector scope, there is really no red in that image. Like if we look at the hat up close and personal, it's blue, but it does loop around just a touch, but it feels browner than it actually looks. And that's by design. Trying to see if we push this red corner up the other way at a neutral point, it's shifting things around. You can actually pull this in a little bit more red, but we're shaping and designing. It's a little bit of a curve here and putting a bend in what's going on and how it gets out there, what it feels like. We can control this sat pivot. We can either push it more sat in, sap it out, and Just kind of just tweaking it here. Like trying to find a happy medium. And like I said, remember with these two nodes, we've kind of just we've taken all the daylight out of this image and kind of made us feel like we're just trying to get to a place where we feel like we're looking at this image lit by the moon, I guess is the easiest way to put it. So as those blues come in, getting a little darker, pulling more reds out of the image, and we can continue to fine tune and tweak where that blue is, how bright that blue is with all of these settings as we shape the image. The other thing we do is if we feel like our shadows are getting a little crushed, we have the volume curve, which is another tool which we can kind of just soften what it's doing. If we show the volume curve is putting a little hump and a bump in there, and we've kind of controlled it so that it's happening differently for the reds. It's less on the blue. We're just kind of putting a little bit of a color bump back in on that low end. You can see we don't want to do too much. Too much is too much. But that's an interesting image, right? Just a little bit. And then we want our frequency is set up just right. It just gives a little bit of a bump in that low end. See what the before and after is. Kind of just softens things out a little bit. Let's see how that is affecting that. You can see how we've kind of just made it so that if you're looking on the scopes, on that low end, what we're doing is blue is coming in like it is normally, and then red and green get a little bit of a bump right on that low end. Little bump, just a little bump. And then kind of just tweaks that color back a little bit. Softens that contrast out just a notch. Because we have that volume curve, so we can actually turn down, let's tweak this a little bit, and then the blend slope, we can make sure that we're pinching that on the high end a little bit more. And there we go, like that. And so that is, like I said, that when we started this day for night look that I've been building from scratch. I'm gonna hop over to this other image here and just copy this right over. You can see here, it still feels too bright. We'll probably have to do some masking up at the top with those mountains where the highlights are. And you could do that down below and not at the look level, but you'd be like, oh, this gives me the tinting and the flare and everything that I want, but those highlights up there are very hard, so you just come in probably with let's just go with qualifier. Let's see if we just pick that. Maybe this as well. That, I don't know. We're just working this on the fly. Ideas. Soft that. Have to track that to a notch range. It feels like we brought those mountains a little bit. They were a little bright. And just bring them back in and dip them down. as good, right? To track that window. Yeah, we kind of did it, the whole thing. How dark could we make that? Yeah, pretty dark without it making too much. And that would be just a shot level adjustment that you'll be doing with a window. And that's just taking that in like so. Making that feel like we're nighttime. Day for night. How about them apples? So that is the Tetra Cube Smash. Is one of the bigger drivers of bleeding the color and getting a very controlled method for steering that color around. So please, like I said at the beginning, leave a comment. Should this be a paid tool, a free tool, or should I just put it on the burn pile? But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this little digression and looking for day for night. See you next time.